Okay, so I am going to sew the last thing before I cut the steek, and I'm using wool, and this is wool. I've been told that you should use the same fiber that you're knitted with, and I've already sewn this side so you can see that. So I've sewn on either side of where I'm actually going to cut, which is this white stitch down the middle. So I just have one more to do, and I thought I'd show that to you, how to do this. I have a very sharp needle. It has a pretty good point, but it's got a big enough eye for the yarn to go through, and I also have some scissors. I don't have fancy steeking scissors. I just have what I have, and I hope those will be sharp enough. When this is done, I'm basically going to a running stitch up and then a back stitch down. That will create the stitching, and that will hold the stitches while I cut. Because this is my first steek, it's all like a mystery surprise. Will it work? I mean, it's only, you know, a week or so worth of knitting. If it doesn't work, I'm also told that because it's wool has in its fibers in itself, if you looked at it under a microscope, it has little spurs, and they basically, like a Velcro, they hook onto each other. So you can steek very easily with natural fibers such as wool. And you can even, I'm told, steek with cotton and other fibers, bamboo, linen, but when you stitch it, in this case, you can see there's some stretch, there's some flex with the material. So it's really important that when I stitch it, I make sure it still has that flex, that stretchiness. You don't want it to be, in this case, so tight that you lose that flexibility. And even though the pattern itself called for doing this on a machine, I felt like, well, I've hand knitted this entire garment. Why would I suddenly throw it under a machine? Not having done that before, I thought, well, let's keep with the hand sewn, at least for this first time, and maybe another time I will try to do it on a machine. So the running stitch, when I put the needle in, I go all the way through the middle of the fibers of the stitch I'm going down, and then when I come up, I'm coming up through the actual stitches. Can you see that? And I'll try and zoom this in. I'm going through the actual stitch fibers with the needle. Can you see that?
Yep.
And then up through the next stitch. And you just do this all the way up. So this white stitch is the stitch that I will be cutting. It's interesting because this pattern literally only gave one stitch that you were supposed to make for the steek, and that just seemed a little too, like, yeah, or whatever. So I actually gave myself 5 stitches. I'll show you that with the needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. And this middle one, this odd one, is the one that will be cut. So I'm putting stitches on either side of that. I could have put it on the outside, but yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll see. We'll see if this works. And the video that I watched about why you do one side running stitch and the other side back stitch is because if you do running stitch all the way up, you're knitting, and then you decide, oh, actually that's too tight, it's not got enough stretch or whatever. It's much easier to remove the running stitches like this than it is to remove the back stitches. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward all of these boring stitches, and I will show it to you when it's all done and we're ready to steek. I have sewn both sides of what will be the steek, and I'm ready for my Laphroaig whiskey. There's an interesting story about this whiskey. I actually went in 2009, so I've been I've had this little bottle for, oh my god, 10 years? More. 12 years? 12 years I've had this, waiting for this moment. I went to the actual Laphroaig distillery in Scotland. I don't really drink, so Laphroaig was special to me because it was the first distillery where I was educated to the whole process of whiskey making. Literally watching the peat that they would cut be burned to smoke the barley, and then the barley become the whiskey. It was amazing, and something about that experience made me realize, when you drink this properly, you're literally tasting that peat, those thousands of years. And I'm just having a little thimble full. It smells so good, but it's very strong. This is quarter cask whiskey, so here's to steeking. This could go very, very sideways. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Really, it's like you can taste the peat. It's fantastic. Okay, so it's showtime, and here we go. I've been told that the most important thing is to not cut the underside of your knitting, so I'm gonna hold it up, and I've got my scissors here, and I'm just gonna cut, and I'm cutting just that center line. Oh dear. It's okay. I'm not as nervous. I mean, I can see little fibers going everywhere. Boom. There is one side, and you can see it naturally curls in on itself. So that will become, I guess, where the sleeve goes. And now the other side. Okay. So I'm just checking underneath to make sure that there's nothing in the way that I don't want to accidentally cut. And now again, just down the middle. I feel a little braver with this one because now I have done my first cutting of the steek. And that's such an interesting word, steek. I'm gonna have to look up where that came from. And who said, I know, let's cut our knitting? Or was it by accident? I don't know. I'm always curious about those first time events, like how something evolved, like eating fermented shark. Like who said, yeah, let's try it. Or gefilte fish, or lutefisk, all these gross fermented fish things. Oh, okay, so we're at the end again, and boom. Okay, I have steeked my first steek. Yeah, so here you can see where I've cut, and that the threads are actually holding the yarn from fraying back. And what's interesting is it is like naturally, because it's stockinette stitch, you can look that up, it naturally wants to curl in on itself. So when that's all sewn together, you won't even see any of this messiness. Okay, the next step is to pin and sew the arms on the sides and then finish the shoulders.